Good morning, everybody. This is reading for years 3 and 4. We are on week 7, and this is the final lesson of the week, lesson 5. And today's lesson focus will be to read chapter 6 of Fantastic Mr. Fox. You will be focusing on developing your inferencing skills and answering questions based on the text. We will also have our Vipers focus at the end of this lesson. Today's learning objective is to develop inferencing skills based on a text. Your success criteria. I can infer by asking questions. I can also answer these questions independently. I can even justify my answers using evidence from the text. We will now look at some of the vocabulary from the text today. And our first word is clanking. What does clanking mean? Have you any idea? Clanking is a loud, sharp sound as of pieces of metal being struck together. And here is a sentence example. My bike chain was clanking in an alarming way as I pedalled along. Prowling. What does prowling mean? It is to move about or wander as if in search of prey. Sentence example. The cat was prowling around the field. Maniac. Have you heard of this word before? What does it mean? Excuse me. A maniac is a madman, a lunatic. And here is the sentence example. He's a complete maniac when he's playing football. Obstinate. Have you heard of this word before? What does it mean? If you are obstinate, you are very stubborn and refusing to change your opinion or chosen course of action. And sentence example, although the little boy knew he was wrong, he was too obstinate to say sorry. Dervish, have you heard of this word? What does it mean? If you say someone is like a dervish, you mean that they are turning round and round, waving their arms about or working very quickly. And our sentence example, Jack was whirling like a dervish, slapping at the mosquitoes. Our next word is crater. What does crater mean? A crater is a large hole made by something hitting the ground with force. And our sentence example, flames blaze out from the crater of the volcano. And our final word today is jeered. What does jeered mean? Let's take a look. It is to laugh or shout insults at someone. And our sentence example, the crowd jeered at the person who came last in the race. Okay, let's read chapter 6. I'm really interested to see if your version of chapter 6 is similar Or maybe your version is very, very different. The race. Now there began a desperate race, the machines against the foxes. After about an hour, the machines bit away more and more soil from the hilltop. Sometimes the foxes would gain a little ground, and the clank and noises would grow fainter. And Mr. Fox would say, "We're going to make it. I'm sure we are." But then, a few moments later, the machines would come back at them, and the crunch of the mighty shovels would get louder and louder. Once the foxes actually saw the sharp metal edge of one of the shovels as it scraped up the earth just behind them. "Keep going, my darlings," panted Mr. Fox. "Don't give up." "Keep going," the fat Boggers shouted to Bunce and Bean. "We'll get him any moment now." "Have you caught sight of him yet?" Bean called back. "Not yet," shouted Boggis, "but I think you're close." "I'll pick him up with my bucket," shouted Bunce. "I'll chop him to pieces." But by lunchtime the machines were still at it, and so were the poor foxes. The farmers didn't stop for lunch. They were too keen to finish the job. "Hey there, Mr. Fox," yelled Bunce, leaning out of his tractor. "We're coming to get you now." "You've had your last chicken," yelled Boggis. "You'll never come prowling around my farm again." A sort of madness had taken hold of the three men. The tall, skinny Bean and the dwarfish, pot-bellied Bunce were driving their machines like maniacs, racing the motors and making the shovels dig at a terrific speed. The fat Boggis was hopping about like a dervish and shouting, "Faster, faster!" The hole the machines had dug was like the crater of a volcano. It was such an extraordinary sight that crowds of people came rushing out from the surrounding villages to have a look. They stood on the edge of the crater and stared down at Boggis and Bunce and Bean. "Hey there, Boggis, what's going on?" "We're after a fox." "You must be mad." The people jeered and laughed, but this only made the three farmers more furious and more obstinate and more determined than ever not to give up until they had caught the fox. Today's learning activity with our Vipers focus. I will just run through these with you. So V for vocabulary. What phrase shows the farmers were digging for a long time? Can you find a word that shows it is vital that the foxes escape? What is a crater? Define the word obstinate. I for infirm. Why can't Bean hear? How can you tell the race between the foxes and the tractors is close? And why do the villagers gather around? Why do the villagers laugh and jeer? P for predict. Predict what will happen in chapter 7. E for explain. How does Quentin Blake make the machines look scary? R for retrieve. What does Bean want to do with Mr. Fox? What do they replace their handheld shovels with? What does Mrs. Fox think the awful noise is? Why didn't the farmer stop for lunch? And S for summarise. Can you summarise chapters 5 and 6 in no more than 50 words? And today's plenary. Write a sentence for each of the following words: crater, clanking, and maniac. Reflection. How have you done today? Have you achieved all of the success criteria? Well done, everybody. You've worked very hard this week.